Few would disagree that today's business environment has never been tougher, particularly for our small and medium-sized enterprises. You've got changing consumer markets, changing consumer demands, and of course, on top of that, always searching for that USP to give them the competitive edge against the big fishes in their market. Now, along comes a post-pandemic recession, led, of course, most recently by the events in Ukraine. Adopting the right technology seems like the only key to sustainability and resilience for small businesses. Yet, surprisingly, 80% of them are not fully utilising available technology. Bitwise-IT are an IT support and services company based in Wickford, England. The company was established in 2009 and has been helping clients across many vertical markets achieve their business IT goals. And today, we'd like to welcome Tim Downs, founder of Bitwise-IT. Tim, what would you say are the biggest technology challenges facing our SMEs today?
The biggest challenges usually is the rate of change. So businesses don't quite get to grasp with it. They're usually fantastic at what they do. Otherwise, as you say, the times are so tough, they probably wouldn't survive. You've got to be great at it. But to understand fully the technology and the options to them, they don't always quite understand it. So that's where we usually come in, and we can help them to get to the bottom of that. Doing it by themselves, sometimes we find if we sort of brought in to look at a client or potential client, that there are security weaknesses there where they've set it up themselves and not quite understood what they're doing, which can lead to cyber attacks, which is obviously a higher risk. So the challenge really is to understand the technology and the risks involved if they're not quite fully understanding that.
We'll come to cyber attacks, but what are the IT services, specifically you provide? Let's crystallise it in the minds of people watching.
Absolutely. So we tend to rotate around 4 pillars. So we've got security, productivity, support and continuity. So for security, obviously that's going to cover the cybersecurity piece, and we'll probably come back to that a little bit. We've got quite a lot on that. For productivity, we help introduce, if they're not already, the latest products, usually from Microsoft. We are a Microsoft partner. And along with that, we help those businesses get the most out of those products. It's not just Microsoft, we've got phone systems and password managers and all the other things that a business needs these days to manage all of their varying online accounts that they need. One of the things we tend to do as well in that space is to help migrate those businesses to use that technology. A lot of businesses, as you say, are not using that technology, so they're kind of in the past a little bit. Getting them onto the cloud in the right circumstances, if it's the right fit for them, is usually a win.
This can seem a little bit scary to some people, and you talk about the term digital transformation. It's very important, if you like, in the offer for Bitwise-IT. Can you expand a little bit and explain what that can actually mean?
Absolutely. It's a simple term, actually. What it really means is transforming your business processes into a way that technology can help them. So really, an easy way to look at it would be an accountants or bookkeepers, perhaps. They used to write it all down in a paper book. These days, it's all online, all on the PC. That's a digital transformation. They change their process. It's more efficient. They can back it up more. Multiple people can use it at once, and there's benefits to that. So in terms of what we do, a lot of the time, digital transformation can include changing the ways of working a little bit, especially with the event of more remote working. So, for example, we found a lot of clients are sending emails to each other saying, here's the file I've updated, here's another one. And it's just a mess, they're tracking all of that. So if we can move their file-based system to the cloud, so when they're all working remotely, they can all access those files at the same time, then it's much more efficient and everyone can stay on top of it.
Are people more open to the idea of cloud-based working, even if they thought maybe before COVID it wasn't for them? There are organisations that must have really struggled to work remotely if they weren't cloud-based.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of organisations did struggle. If they weren't geared up for it in the first place, then there was a bit of a rush and a lot of struggle, and a lot of companies suffered. I think these days it is quite accepted. Some companies do want to go back into the office, but a lot of them really accept hybrid working. All of our clients want hybrid working, and we support that for them. Now,
you mentioned cyber security. It can send a shiver down the spine of anyone running a business. Having said that, no amount of cyber security, I've heard, is going to mean you are able to avoid hacking. How do you reassure your clients about cybersecurity?
That's a great point. It's kind of a bit like no bank is impenetrable. There's always going to be a way in if someone is determined. With strong cybersecurity, it's a deterrent and you're less likely to get hacked or a successful hack. However, that could happen. So one thing that we do, on top of all the technology we put in place, the artificial intelligence on all our clients' machines to watch the networks, we have a 24/7 security team watching their systems all the time. That team will respond to any attacks no matter what the time. On top of that, we've got backups and disaster recovery in a completely different location to their main system. So if in the event anything did happen and they got past that security team and all of the protections we do, we can bring their company back up in a safe, secure environment and connect them back in.
I mean, it is an ever-changing field. I often hear stories about how emails can still end up getting through to the right person who then signs a check off, those sorts of things. It's a changing dynamic. You know, what advice do you have, right up-to-date advice to people now?
One of the key components to this is the knowledge of the staff in these businesses, because those are the ones that are getting these emails, that are trying to trick people into clicking things or paying, fake invoices and all that kind of thing. So staff training is really critical, and a good starting point, even for small businesses that don't have much budget, just get on YouTube and have a look at, phishing emails, how to identify that. That's a great start.
So let's have the crystal ball out now. Mm-hmm. I mean, clearly, the prospects in some ways probably excite you for digital transformation of the future, because there's so much opportunity out there, and businesses can achieve their goals with more investment in the sort of work that you're doing. Where do you see Bitwise-IT in 5 years' time?
Well, actually, we're quite looking at the moment towards aligning with government protocols. There was actually a new mandate brought out in March this year that said that companies like Bitwise-IT should be following certain sets of rules and protocols, which we do, and we're looking to work with them. There's an NCSC, which is the National Cybersecurity Centre, which governs the UK. So we're aligning with all their protocols, working alongside them to help those businesses. So in the next 5 years, we see ourselves as being a forerunner in that race, if you like, to make sure that we are putting in place and delivering the strongest cybersecurity as recommended by the government.
Just a final question to draw things to the close. If you had one message that you could put out, and the only takeaway from this interview was one thing, what would you like those SME businesses to hear?
The most important thing, well, there's one thing really that you should do straight away if you've not done it yet, and that is to enable multi-factor authentication. It's the single best way to deter an attack on your systems.
Thanks very much, Tim Downs, founder and managing director of Bitwise-IT. Thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Nick.